Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of the SubstancePainter podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter. The podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests from the film and game industries. You name it, folks, we cover it here. So if this is your first time here, though, and you want to learn how to grow as an artist and learn what it takes to make it as a career, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. From Godzilla, Aquaman to Black Panther, today on the show we've got a very special guest for you. We have senior texture artist, instructor, rookie host, content creator, you name it, the man's done it all. Paul, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Ross. Hey, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm really looking forward for this conversation. And I hope you guys can take something out of it. I don't know. It's just going to be pretty cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into everything about Paul's journey.
Damn, that's scary.
When I was a boy, right from the beginning, you name it, we're going to be diving into it. I know every one of you guys are tuning in and you love texture artists, texture art, etc. We've got the main man on, so stay tuned and enjoy. If you're wondering why I didn't say Paul's surname, I was struggling at the start. I'm going to throw the pressure onto you. Paul, how do I pronounce your name properly?
Okay, so the name that I usually use that people see online is PaulH.Paulino.
Okay.
And people ask me, like, why do you put the H? And the answer is simple. If you say PaulH.Paulino, it almost sounds like a joke, right? It's like PaulH.Paulino.
Okay.
So I had to put an H there just to break a little bit. Just PaulH.Paulino.
Yeah, just have something
so
there.
my actual name, so I'm Brazilian, and my actual name is Paulo Henrique Barbosa Paulino.
Whoa,
so that's my
okay.
full name. So I could have used Barbosa, right? It would be more piratey. It would be like a pirate name.
That's a cool name.
Right, Barbosa, Paulo Barbosa. But I started using Paul because I started using internet early on, and then I noticed that by using Paul, people wouldn't get confused with my name. So that's why I started using Paul. And then when I moved to Canada, it was just easier to keep using it, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, like I'm the same thing. I'm pretty sure that was the only reason. I've said this many times, but my dad called me Ross just because it's nice and simple. I know that's the fact. It's nice and easy, straight to the point.
Oh, so do you use your second name at all, like, or you always go by Ross? I know you don't never tell people your second one.
So that's an interesting thing. So there's a weird thing. So well, I wouldn't say it's weird, but going up through school, right? Literally everyone, like no kidding, nobody called me Ross. Everybody called me by my surname because of sport. So, because I always had Baxter on my surname, every time I was playing football, going up for a header, Baxter's, make sure I win the ball, etc. All this sport, and it was weird because it was getting to a point that even my teachers were calling me Baxter. Everyone was calling me Baxter. I was like, okay, happy days, embrace it, love it. So, I guess everyone from now on, you can just call me Baxter.
Baxter. Yeah, because Baxter's a cool last name, man. Because I hated Paulino for the longest time. I mean, okay, it's my family name, but it's again, it always sounded like a joke. Paulo Paulino, Paul Paulino. So I always didn't like it. But then I got to a point where I just embraced it. And now I think it helps because people remember because it's so similar. Paul Paulino, it's almost like have like a sound to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I like it now.
So this is insight knowledge. We're learning about names today. I've never done this in the podcast. It's always nice, something different. Here, what we're talking about.
We wasted 10 minutes just talking about names. I'm sorry, everyone. We're new to this. We're new to content.
This is my first ever podcast. I apologize, folks. I'm so sorry. Okay, so as always, on the SubstancePainter podcast, we'll start off with good old introductions. I know we've basically just talked about you quite in depth, but tell us a wee bit about yourself, Paul, and we'll take it from there, man.
Okay. So a little bit about myself. I'm a texture artist. I've been working in this industry since 2015. I'm from Brazil originally, like I said. So basically, I have a background in filmmaking, motion graphics, digital painting. I did that a lot when I was in Brazil until 2014. I had the opportunity to move to Canada to study. I decided to just change careers completely and try something else. I didn't have any experience in 3D. I moved to Canada to study a think tank training center, which is a small school here in Vancouver. And that was crazy, man. That was like one of the best experiences in my life because it was a huge gamble, like moving away to a different country. I could barely speak English.
Okay.
And yeah, so I studied there for a year. I only had 1 year to finish school because we didn't have enough resources to stay here more than that. It was super expensive, so I had the pressure was on, and getting a job in Canada, even at that time, wasn't easy at all. So I had to just uh, push through, and then I was lucky enough that I got a job right before I finished school, maybe a month before, 1 month, 2 months before.
Hmm.
Uh, I got a job at Scanline VFX. That was my first experience in the industry. And then I stayed at Scanline for 2 years. Then I worked at Method Studios for a year until 2018, no, 19, when I got a chance to work at a small company in New Zealand called Weta.
My favorite company of all time. Dude, I'm going to have to talk about you in depth about that because I've been craving to move to New Zealand ever since I was a kid.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, yeah, it was a beautiful place. Yeah, I couldn't even explain when I got the position there. It was a beautiful experience, and I recently came back to Canada in July because mainly because of my girlfriend, because
Hmm.
she's living in Canada and she was doing her master's here and she couldn't move to New Zealand with me. So I decided to take, I chose my personal, well-being, I would say. But my experience in New Zealand was amazing. It was one of the best experiences ever. And yeah, so now I've been here. I haven't been working because I decided to take a long sabbatical.
Nice.
It's funny that some people that try to be fancy, they don't say I'm unemployed. They say I took a sabbatical.
Here, you got to throw it in when you can, man. Whatever you got to do, you got to do it.
No, but I mean, this is true because I've been working nonstop for 5 years, just jumping from company to company, and
Hmm.
then I hadn't had the chance to work on my personal projects. So then I decided to take 6 months off completely just to focus on something that I really enjoy doing, which is working on my personal projects, but also creating content on YouTube and on my website. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been having a great time,
Yeah,
not working. So
dude, you've been killing it with the content. So, most importantly, we'll be diving into the content that's been created. He literally just released a video today, and trust me, there's a lot of good humor and entertainment in his content. So, stay tuned for all the future videos to come, and most importantly, links in the description below. Go check out, make the most of it. So, you
thank
said a
you.
lot of great things there. For example, obviously having to take the risk to pursue your career. It's a big move, moving countries. And we'll dive into that as well. And I think it's also important to talk about. I want to talk about mental health as well. I think it'll be important to talk a wee bit about
Yes.
mental health today because I've learned a lot from your content and from your interviews, and I know it's a topic that you want to talk about, and I think it would be nice to hear your perspective. One of them I feel is important, which, believe it or not, literally my last two guests said has not talked about enough, and that's being lonely. Believe it or not, like a lot of people don't talk about that, or
Yes.
being away, and a lot of things can be learned from today's episode. But first things first, we got to ask a very important question: what is your favorite film? Let me
My
have all the
favorite
knowledge.
film. Oh my God. That's a hard question because I would say that lately, a movie that I keep rewatching
Hmm.
is The Princess Diary 2. That's a movie.
Wait, what? Wait, what? What's it called?
That's a movie called The Princess Diary 2.
Hmm.
It's with Anne Hathaway.
Nice.
And okay, that's
I don't
that's
know
a
if you're.
joke. Uh,
Oh, God, come on! You fooled me. I'm getting filled
okay,
in my
but
own podcast, folks.
okay, no, I do love that movie. I had something with that movie. I don't know. Like I watched that when I was young, and I really loved it. And I just had something about she Annie Hathaway. She's a princess, and then she finds real love, and that really moved me. But okay, but there's another movie that I
I
keep
can't
watching
believe you
constantly.
played me like that, dude. That's gonna be. Oh, I
You
should clip that. That's content right there, folks.
you
I'm
look
too
so
gullible.
serious. You were like, oh, that's great. Yeah, let me search for the visual effects on that movie.
Oh, of course. Why
No,
not?
so I know, but a movie that I watched constantly, and it doesn't have any apparent visual effects, is a Drive. With what's his name?
Oh, the guy in
Uh,
I know which one you're on. the guy who's in the film
He's my,
First Man.
yeah, he's my dude. Ryan.
Ryan
Ryan
Gosling.
Gosling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man, that movie is just so good. Like that soundtrack, especially the soundtrack. So I found out about the soundtrack first. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
watch the movie when it came out. I watched, I think 3 years ago was the first time I watched the movie. But so I found the soundtrack on Spotify, and then I kept listening to it. It's like synth wave, uh, and it's just so good. And then I watched the movie. I was just mesmerized by the cinematography, by the editing, by the everything. And there's one thing that he does in the movie, just like he drives, and he's a driver, right? Of course,
Mm-hmm.
drive. So he drives in LA. And when I went to LA a couple of years ago, I had a chance to drive at night, and then I put the soundtrack. Dude, that was like one of the most amazing
vibes.
experiences I had. I was just like, I just wish I could be as good looking as Ryan Gosling. But yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. And I mean, of course, there are other ones like Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
It was what sparked my interest in film. I remember, growing up, and I recently rewatched it because I read the books, and it's just such a good movie. Like I think it's one of those exceptions where the movie is really good and the book is also amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, so good.
Like,
Yeah.
so I've only seen that film once, but it was great when I watched it. And it also
Jurassic Park?
No, Drive.
Okay, I was gonna throw this
Oh
cup.
no! Just literally comes through the monitor, Ross.
Yeah, come on, man.
Here, dude. I know you're a Spielberg fan as well. You're talking to one of the most ultimate Spielberg fans here as well. So don't you try and put me on the spot like that, okay?
Okay.
I love Spielberg. Nah.
Okay, did you watch Deep Impact?
Deep Impact. God, that's
That's
the what do you call it? The disaster movie.
Meteor.
Yeah,
Yes.
The Disaster. That's a classic. I like that film. And then that's interesting as well because you've got the film Baby Driver in my head as well. What do you think of that? Like that's another great movie.
I love Baby Driver. I love Baby Driver. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, when I watched it, mainly thinking about Drive at the time because it was pretty much at the same time. I really like it. I love the editing, the sound mixing, sound design, and everything. But I think Drive is still. I just love the feel of Drive. It just feels so. It's so violent, but so calm at the same time. And I
Yeah.
think Ryan Gosling really sells in that movie because he's just so blasé the whole time. He's just like not doing. I mean, his face doesn't change. Right? That's how he acts.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a perfect part for him, that movie. So yeah, that's the movie that comes in my head right now. Oh, I also love Princess Bride. Princess Bride is also one of my favorite movies of all time. Princess Bride. Man, I use Inigo Montoya's avatar. Oh, I think the younger audience might not even know this movie.
Right.
Do you know this movie?
I have no idea what you're talking about. But
I'm sorry.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I feel old now. Sorry, but you probably.
I should have said that. I put you on the spot. It's the worst.
I feel so old.
You're just getting old.
No, but it's a good movie.
Getting old, man. Getting old.
it's a really old movie, but it's just like so cheesy, man. Yeah. So if you guys don't know about it, just search for The Princess Bride, Inigo Montoya. It's glorious.
Make sure to check it out, folks. Lots of interesting content coming straight away. It's always fun just starting off the podcast like this. It's always a good fun take on it. So I know obviously you're in the VFX industry, etc. And I know you transitioned from originally wanting to do directing and stuff. But to give everyone a bit of a rundown, why was it film that was the thing that you wanted to do?
Well, I think what I can remember from growing up is that, so I used to be really into games growing up. So my whole childhood, I started with Super Nintendo, and then I had all the types of Nintendo. Nintendo 64 was like one of my favorite consoles of all time. I was obsessed with games, but at the same time, my brother was really into films. He was really into Disney films. And I lived in a very small town in Brazil, and we didn't have a theater at all.
Right.
So I didn't go to the theater until I was like 18 because we didn't have access to anything. So we would always get the VHS tapes, and we would always watch, way after everyone else. So I remember that my mom would get us a lot of the old Disney movies, so I watched all of them. all of them repeatedly because of my brother, because
Mm-hmm.
he would get obsessed with it. So I think my brother was way more obsessed about films than I was. I was more into games, I would say. But then when I was 14, 15, I I had this school work where the teacher wanted us to do like a play. And for some reason, I had the idea to make a movie instead. And this was back in 2006. So back then, there was no YouTube, right? There was no
Mm-hmm.
this, it wasn't as easy as it is today. Like you needed like a VHS camera, like a mini DV camera that you had to record. And then I started to explore. That was the first time I felt like I was really enjoying something I was doing. I was really like finding new things. And then that process of filming with my friends, I remember scripting the movie by myself. And then the next day I presented it to my friends, like, okay, we're going to do a Western film. And this
Mm-hmm.
was an English class, right? So we speak Portuguese in Brazil, but this was an English class. So we had to do it in English. And nobody there knew how to speak English, to be honest. We just had to write and read at the time. So it turns out that people started laughing at us, like, oh my God, why are you doing this? Why do we even care? But there were some people in my life that they make us move forward, like especially the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
When she saw my idea, she was so impressed by it, and she was the only person that believed in us. And she just said, and I tell her to this day, every day I see her, I'm like, I'm only here because of you,
Yeah.
because you believed in me. And because I was just like stealing my mom's clothes to dress people in the movie. We only had like 4 friends to do it, and one guy had to be 5 different characters because we
Okay.
didn't have anyone else. So that process really pushed me to try and learn new things, right? So I got really into editing, filming, and I was just mesmerized by all that. And then I started making a lot of, after I finished that movie, I forced people to watch it. I remember I in school we had this auditorium, and I don't know how I convinced the director of the school, like the, what do you guys call
Like
the
principal?
dean,
Wait.
the principal,
Okay.
the guy who runs the school, right?
Yeah.
So I convinced the principal to run our movie for like 300 people,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and
What was the
it
reaction
was like
like?
it was a 15-minute short film, right? And it was in English, so I had to subtitle that. And man, subtitling a video today, it's already hard.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that in
Oh my lord.
2006, I
Yeah.
had to burn the subtitles into video. It was like a nightmare. And I had to put in a CD to play it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nightmare. And I remember printing a cover of the film. So I made like a poster for it, and I put it outside of the auditorium, and people like, yeah, you're gonna watch our movie made in Almenara and all that. And remember, I mean, this is really a small town. People didn't even know what a movie was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But after that, a lot of people started talking about it, and I started getting a lot of freelance requests for people asking me to make videos for them in school. So I just started making a lot of video for school assignments and things like that. And then later, I was doing videos for. There was this guy that he was in love with this girl, and he wanted to make a romantic video for her birthday. So I had to go with him and record interviews of people saying how much they loved her and blah blah blah. So it was like a half an hour video that I had to record and edit,
Yeah.
and I charged like $25. Damn it, I was so stupid. But anyway,
Here, dude,
that,
this is great. This is I think it's, sorry to cut you off. It's just it goes back to like the main point you said right at the start. Having somebody to just, you just need one person to keep you going, and you had that teacher. I was the exact same as you. I had one teacher who knew well, he got me into 3D, and it was because of, like, it was like there was like, I don't know, 1,300 people in the school, and there was only the 2 of us who shared that connection. And the fact that you obviously kept exploring, and it then turned into something. These are the best stories. This is what we were talking about before we went live. It's all about stories at the end of the day. And as cliche as it sounds, you just have to keep doing it and figure out where it can take you. Because like you said, I assume you didn't expect anything to happen from it, but then look at the opportunities that came from it. Even if it's only a wee bit of money, like you said, it's something to show that, you know what, I can make money in this career. And that's always a question that I hear so many people getting taught when they're kids. Oh, wait, can you make money in art, etc.? So thanks for sharing that.
And no worries. And there's something that I think a lot of people go through that in many different countries, but I feel like places like Brazil and other poorer countries, I think we go through a lot of pressure from our not a, sometimes our parents, but sometimes the society,
Mm-hmm.
that we gotta choose something that would help us make money, right? So the whole society in my hometown wanted us, the new generation, to keep doing what they thought was successful, right? So they wanted us to become doctors, to become lawyers, and I was extremely lucky that even though everyone around me were pushing me towards becoming a lawyer, becoming a doctor, my mom, she fought back and she said, "Nope, he's gonna do whatever he wants."
Mm-hmm.
And she told me last week, she called me and she's like, "Yeah, I remember this lady. She came to me saying that you would never be successful," because at the time I chose when I went to college, I went to a college in advertising and marketing. It was the only opportunity that I had to kind of work with video.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose that, and then people were like making fun of me to my mom, saying like, your son is going to be, homeless. He's not going to make any money. He should become a doctor." And she fought back and she said, "No, he's going to do whatever he wants. I believe in his passion, in his skills." And I'm really grateful that she did that, because I know that a lot of people, a lot of students, they go through the process of having their parents pushing back and say, "No, don't do that. Do something else." Right. So that's really hard. Like you really, I'm really grateful that I was privileged to have a family that really believed in me, even
Yeah.
when I was stealing my mom's clothes to make these videos, and just making a mess at my house to film stuff. She
Mm-hmm.
believed in me, and now she's really proud of, when she watched my movies, and she's always happy to tell people like, "Look, my son worked on that."
Like,
Even though, sorry, I just one thing to add there.
yeah, of course.
She doesn't know what I do. She doesn't really know what I do. She thinks, yeah. So the way she tell people in my hometown, it sounds like I'm an actor.
Here,
So
that
that's
is
a
the
bit
way to
weird.
go. Keep it going. You don't tell her what anything else. If you want to be an actor, happy days.
No, because it's weird. Because when I went there,
Mm-hmm.
my mom threw this party for me because I returned to Brazil to visit, and then at that party, my mom asked me to do like a little speech, right? So I said, "Hey
Mm-hmm.
everyone, thank you for coming. It's really nice to be back." Blah blah blah. And then when I finished my speech, I noticed a line of people, and I'm like, "Mom, what's that? What are these people doing?" And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "Well, I told them that you work in Hollywood and stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, Mom, but what did you tell them?" She's like, "Yeah, just go there." When I went there, I found out that these people thought that I was an actor, that I was really in movies, and they asked for my autograph and photos. And I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't explain what I was doing, because I mean, how I'm gonna explain what a texture artist does? I can't even explain here what I do. Can you imagine to someone in Brazil? That was really funny. So
Here, that's interesting because we both share the same kind of thing then, because my mum still to this day thinks all I do is animation. Like, she thinks I'm an animator.
uh,
Because animation was like one of the first things I got into, because I was the same as you. I used to, like, I'm still obsessed with Disney, but every time she sees a job opportunity, she's like, "Oh, Ross, there's this animation studio. You should definitely go do it." And it's like, I don't do animation anymore, but I know where you're coming from. That's always a cool thing though. It's you never know what to expect when doing these podcasts, and like all these different side stories that made you to who you are is so awesome. And going back to one of the really important points that you said there, like for example, I know obviously your mum really helped you, and that's great to see. And if you guys are tuning in right now, and maybe you're trying to get the trust from your parents and stuff, it'd be great to hear what you think of this, Paul. But the one thing that really helped me was, first of all, you have to kind of prove yourself first, but
yes,
also show that you can have an income by having a normal job, but still work on that portfolio on the side.
yes, yes. I agree 100%. I think one thing that really made my mom see that I was serious about what I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
was the effort and the time that I put into my skills. You know, it was something that, like I said, I was working. This was like I was 15, and I was working like day and night just to make this video that I would get 25 real from, 25 bucks for a 30-minute video
Mm-hmm.
that it took me like more than a week to finish. And when she looked at that, I'm like, this kid, is putting all this effort into something, so he must be really into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think if you show results, like of course it's really hard to make money right away, especially in what we do. It's a process, right? Like you have to develop those foundation, that fundamentals, those fundamental skills, in order to, when you start, before you start seeing any money. But again, exactly what he said is just building that trust by putting the work and showing you results, and also having a conversation saying like, listen, mom, look at this artist. They are thriving. They're making enough money to be, to have a normal life. And it just find references, people that you can point at and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. This is my goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you just have an honest conversation, I think they're gonna be more than happy. I think it's really hard if you're in a very traditional family. I know that some places like Brazil and maybe India, I think they have a thing like, oh, we have a family, a tradition of doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to keep it going. But I don't know. I think a lot of people go through that this day, especially with YouTube now. A lot of people want to be YouTubers. I think as long as you're doing things because you really want, because you really, really like what you do, you're really passionate about it, not just because people are making money. I think people are going to see that right away.
Yeah, like that. Oh, you nailed it there perfectly. Thanks for saying that, because at the end of the day, it's all about honesty. And you said there, like for example, take YouTube, a massive example. Take becoming a gamer. A lot of people, yes, social media, if you learn it, it can be a very powerful tool. But to basically highlight what you said there, which is like, for example, I do podcasts. Why? Because I love helping people. I love teaching people. That's the reason why I do it. You do texturing because you're obsessed with texturing. You love just anything texturing related, etc. That's why you do it. And eventually, once you, like we were saying here, get better in it, you can then obviously have backup and proof to show to your family. You're right. Okay, this is making an income. And if you can't show them the income side of things, that's why I always talk about the importance of a 9 to 5 job. You can't stress it enough. I think a lot of people, this is my perspective, but I think a lot of younger people these days, even like I'm still, I would say, like even my generation is a lot lazier personally than obviously our parents. Like our parents were always hands going. Like my dad right now, he's in the kitchen right now, just nailing down the whole wall. He's fixing everything. He's literally just putting a whole new kitchen by himself. He never slows down. He's working his ass off all the time, and we can learn so much from that. But going back to my main point is, and what Paul was saying there, do the work hard, don't stop. Paul, obviously, he kept going, and look at him now. He's literally everywhere. He's doing so well. He's done so many different things, and he's great at it. So we'll dive into the world of texturing. But first things first, I wanted to talk about what I said at the start, because I don't think it's talked about enough. So lifestyle and mental health, because we're currently on this kind of topic.
Yes.
So first things first, I wanted to just throw this question at you. So you moved to New Zealand, and you've also moved to Canada. What was the experience like making such a big move, and how did that kind of, is the word probably, like, how did you feel? Like, did that hinder you at all, and what did you learn from it?
Oh man, I love this question. This is a great question. Okay. Let me even correct my
Warming up time.
fingers
Here
here.
we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so this is something that I really want to. I even want to make a video about this whole topic because I think it's so important. I recently read a book called, I read it early this year, but it's called The Agony and the Ecstasy.
Right.
It's a book. It's the life story of Michelangelo. It's a biography / novel of his life. And one thing, I just love the title of that book. I mean, the book is pretty good as well. It's a long ass book, but the story, That's good. But the title, I think the title pretty much summarizes how I felt when I moved to New Zealand. The agony and the ecstasy. The agony and the ecstasy. I think it's a great analogy for how I felt when I moved to New Zealand, because imagine that you always wanted to work somewhere in a place like Weta, which is like the pinnacle of quality for everyone. And then when you get there, I loved the company, but I never felt so alone. I never felt so lonely. And then I was feeling torn apart because my girlfriend was here in Canada. She couldn't move with me to New Zealand, so I had to make a very we dated long distance for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to make a choice. If I decided to stay in New Zealand, we would probably have to break up. But at the same time, if we had to break up, I had most of my friends in Canada and Brazil as well. So I decided to come back to make this really important decision for her and for my mental health as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a really hard decision because, like I said, I was having a great time there. Uh, Career wise, was like amazing, right? But no, I decided to prioritize my life, my mental health, and my personal life. When I moved to Canada in 2014, it wasn't that hard, and I'm going to tell you why. Uh, so when I moved here, I came to school, right? And I feel like when you go somewhere to study, when you are at school environment, you probably know that it's way more comforting because a lot of people are going through the same process, going through the same mental issues of like being by themselves, working hard, and not knowing if you're going to pay the tuition or not, and
Yeah.
loans, and so everyone is kind of messed up in
Yeah.
their head.
It's crazy,
I
but it's
remember,
true.
right? Like I remember that dude, I was so stressed out in school. At some point, people wouldn't even talk to me. I mean, they knew that they could always ask for me for help, but I hated like small talk.
Right.
I was always like in my computer working 14, 16 hours a day. And I reached points in school where I don't know, it was pretty bad. But we had friends. I mean, my friends in school, I have Christian Pack and other friends that were really close. We helped each other, right? We hold each other, and we went through that together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that kept going. After I left school, we still we started hanging out. Like I started working with Christian. He was my best friend in school. We started at the same company together, so that was great. We started together, and then more people from school started working in the industry, so we had buddies here and there. But when I moved to a different place just for work, you get into a place where everyone have their life already established, right? They have families, they have their life already. When
Mm-hmm.
someone else there's new comes in, it's really hard for you to become friends with everyone. I mean, I'm pretty, as you know, I talk a lot, so to me, it's easy to just make friends and socialize. That's not a problem for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so much effort to develop new friendships, right? It's not that easy, especially when you're becoming older. Because I don't have time to just go out and drink. I don't even drink anymore, so
Yeah.
it's just, if you're not, I think in London is a bit different from other places. But in London, I had a few friends from London, and they were saying that guys would always leave the industry and go to a pub after work, and then hang out there for a bit, and then go home. Some places like New Zealand, because the city was so small, people would not do that at very often.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people would do, but not the group that I was in. So you would just finish work and then go home afterwards. So that was my whole life for a whole year, to be honest. I had a few friends that they're really important to me, and I'm really glad that they were there. Michelle, Rod, and they were also South Americans. Michelle is Brazilian, and Rod is from Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
So we became like inseparable. So we would always hang out together. So that really helped my mental health. But then I got to a point where I noticed that work was not, I wasn't feeling pressured at work at all. I was having a great time, learning a lot. But this social thing was really, really putting me down. I got to a point where I was I was getting close to depression and like a really serious anxiety attack.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to seek help, and that was the best thing I could do. So whether they had this system that you can contact someone and then say, okay, I need a therapy session and all that. So I went for a couple sessions, and that really helped me to hold myself a bit more,
Of course.
you know. Um, so yeah, so I did that. I sought help, and that's when so this was before the pandemic started. But when the pandemic started, I was already I was already in a feeling of isolation from the beginning. So it didn't change for me. Like I was so used to being alone and spending my weekends alone that
Mm-hmm.
when the pandemic hit and we had to be in a lockdown, I my life was already like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So the pandemic hit, and then I decided to leave in July, and then I moved here, and again, that was the best choice for me for sure, because now I would say 150% better mentally,
That's
and
great
now
to
I'm
hear.
doing weekly therapy sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a life changing experience to me. Just being able to have professional help it's a must if you can. And I think there's also a lot of free resources that you can find as well for mental health.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing that. I do appreciate that, because I was the same as you, man. When I was in university, so people know the story. If you've been listening for a long time on the podcast, so I went from, like, I lost about 3.5 stone during
Oh
my
my god.
so I yes, about 3.5 stone in my time of education. I went from like 12 and a half, 13 stone down to like 9 stone or something, because all I cared about was work. And to
Sorry, you said 9 stone. Let me
so
convert that because I
I
have no idea what.
I lost, yeah, I went from 13 stone to like 9 stone, or like something like that.
Oh my god, 57 kilos. Damn.
Well, well, I went down to a low weight. Yeah, it was insane. I went from like eight high 70s to low, like 50 something or something like that.
Oh my god.
It was bad, but it's always important to hear these things, because when I was in uni, I was the same as you. So, well, obviously, my story is well, pretty much exactly the same. I was just working all the time. I got to a point, right, that I didn't know. Like, I'm the same as you. Like, I love chatting. I can't beat a good conversation. Hence why I do my podcast. I love it to pieces.
Yeah.
But because I got so obsessed with work, I forgot how to talk to people, and I forgot how to look at people. So I used to go
Mm-hmm.
into, there's this thing called, it's this massive building in our university, this area where everyone normally goes in, and I would go and sit on my chair, and I'd always think for some reason everyone was watching me. Like, I was that stressed out. I was
Mm-hmm.
constantly looking around, like I just did not feel comfortable, and I was like, this isn't me. And the same thing happened when I got into one of the AAA studios that I was working for, because there was just so much things going on that I had no control over, that was stopping me from socializing. So, for example, I had
Mm-hmm.
no internet for 3 months, so I couldn't even reach back home to family, and I knew very little people at the studio that I was working at. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these topics aren't really brought up, or they're not. A lot of people don't necessarily share enough of these stories, and it's always important to hear it. There's one thing that I wish. I know this might, well, it may sound so simple, but there's one thing that I think could just change everything, and that's when people are starting a job, instead of always being around the lead, so the person who's in charge, literally have someone who's like the newest start, who was before you, a new person, to kind of be your friend for like the first
Mm-hmm.
few weeks, and somebody who can actually show you around, because we know there's a lot of cliques, there's a lot of groups that are obviously already formed in these
Mm-hmm.
studios. If they're even bigger, it's harder to make friendships, it's harder to get to know people, and some people really struggle on this topic. But like, loneliness is not a nice thing, but the best thing that you did, and it's great that you did it, is you realized, right, I'm going through a tough time, I'm going to do something about it, and you reached out. I did the same.
Mm-hmm.
I did the exact same as you. So I was battling like depression and suicide thoughts. I was in a really dark
Mm-hmm.
time. So I went
Uh-huh.
to a psychologist person, and we literally just talked and we geeked out and we just talked about everything, and that really changed everything for me. And I've always been an honest person, and I think being open is such a powerful thing, because then like there's nothing better than starting a job and just having like complete relaxation. Doing your body just stops tense and you just like sit back. Best feeling ever. And if you can get to that point sooner, your job's going to be 10 times easier.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. I think you said something really interesting, and one thing that I noticed was I was really open. Even when I started having this depression feelings, at the time I was also taking this medication for acne, and that medication also worsened the depression effect.
Yeah.
So it was one of the side effects. It made you feel, extra depressed, right? So that was an extra on everything, on top of everything. And I always being honest, but one thing that I felt like people never believed me, because I was always like talking to everyone, and I was always cracking jokes, and I was always like, I was always really good at putting people together.
Okay.
So I used I love Brazilian barbecue. It's like I don't know if you've ever been to a Brazilian barbecue, but it's just like a place. It's like a steakhouse, and they come around with meat on a sword.
Nice,
and
awesome.
They just put meat. It's an awesome thing if you like meat, of course. But when I got to New Zealand, I found this amazing place, and then every month I would gather people to go to this place. So we started out with like 5 people, my close friends. When I left, we had like a good pie thing for me, and we had like 40 people at that place.
Oh, just
I brought it. Yeah, I just brought like 40 people just to eat with us. So I love doing that. I love bringing people together. Not anymore because of COVID, but I love doing that. I love like bringing people and putting people together. So people always thought that I was joking. That okay, how come you have depression since you're always talking to everyone, you're always socializing? So sometimes people that they seem happy, they seem fine, they're not, right? So what I tried to do was always being open about it. Like, okay, I look fine, but I'm not, you know? So you have to seek help. It's hard, but it's going to make a huge difference.
Definitely. So most importantly, folks, if you guys are tuning in, try and go to your best friend. Even if you can't go to your parents, or you can't go to someone, or maybe you're a wee bit too afraid to go to anyone else. I always went to my best friend. So when I was in uni, I just knock my next door neighbor's friend, and I'd be like, dude, you up for a chat? And it was simple as that. And our relationship, he's my best friend. Hence why I could tell him anything. I could literally tell him anything. And all it takes is one person to really change the game. It goes back to the main point you said right at the start. You had that teacher. It just takes one person, no matter what. Like, for example, my whole life, people are always like, Ross, you're very optimistic. You're far too optimistic. I don't believe you'll make any of that. I'm like, ha 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 ha. I don't care. I'll make anything. Whatever I say, I'm going to do it. And it just takes one person to really settle things. And
always be but always be grateful for that, for these people as well. One thing that I really try to do in my life is to tell these people how important they were for me, because a lot of people, they don't do that. They just go in their lives, people help them, and they just never tell them how important they were. And I love doing that, man. I call my teachers all the time. Like, there's a teacher from uni that he was also really important in my life, and he contacted me on LinkedIn last week. He wanted me to help him doing like a presentation for his students in Brazil. And I was like, dude, anything for you. Like, you helped me so much, and I will do anything that I can just to pay back that, So I think being grateful for the help you've got in your life, I think it's a really important thing as well.
Yeah, like, we're going to be touching on a lot of different topics as well today, and that being the most important. That's why I wanted to start off. I know you guys are craving the knowledge from the master about texturing, but trust me, we'll get there, folks. Be patient. But I want to talk about hobbies and a wee bit of sport, because I know
Hobbits.
Hobbies. We can talk about Lord of the Rings all you want. If you want to do a whole podcast about Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, I'm down, man. But I'm not sure. It depends on what the guests are willing to listen to me ramble about Middle Earth for that long. I don't know. I talk it long enough as it is. But yeah, so I wanted to kind of talk about a wee bit about sport. and
Mm-hmm.
just activities and things we do outside of work. And you said, for example, bringing a group together, getting just meeting up, etc. Because obviously COVID going on,
Mm-hmm.
is there any way that you've learned to still get things together? Like, for example, it's obviously going to sound me. I just play one. I guarantee, like, so it's not guarantee. I make sure one day a week I'm playing with Xbox with my friends. And as simple as that
Mm-hmm.
sounds, but it's a group night. It's Xbox night,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Is there anything
Uh-huh.
else? Maybe it's just the same thing. But is there anything else that's helped you during with everything going on?
Man, these are great questions. Good job. I'm scared of a little bit because you're hitting this soft spots right there. Uh, yeah. So okay. So I'm gonna start by saying, recently I'm doing the same thing you're doing. So I found out I have this group of friends, my best friends from Brazil. Like, so we have like a group of like 4 friends
Mm-hmm.
that we know each other since we were 3. So we were, longtime friends, but we were having a hard time during COVID because they wanted to chat via FaceTime, but I always hated using FaceTime. I hate it. I just don't like doing it. So we found a way to get together, and they're not in the industry. They're doctors, lawyers, and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But we found a game that we can play, and we've been obsessed with this game. It's called Brawlhalla.
Oh gosh, right. I've never heard of this. Right, tell
It
me about it.
it's a, it's a free to play game. It's on Steam. It's just like a Smash Bros.
Mm-hmm.
Smash Bros. It's glorious, man, because it's so quick. Like, you play in like 5 minute sessions, and then you just try to kick someone else's asses, and it's just so much fun. So we do it every day. So we call each other on Discord for like 30 minutes every day, and then
Mm-hmm.
just play. And this is great because we never been this close, for so long. Because I left my hometown a long time ago, so we've been talking every day, and it's been amazing, even for my mental health. Like, just having this contact with my friends is just so amazing, and also like doing something that is not boring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you call someone every day, what are you going to talk about, right?
Exactly.
But so that's one of the things. Other hobbies in my life that I developed over time. Gym, it's been a good thing for me since I was 15. I had a huge self-esteem problem growing up. I was a pretty chubby kid,
Right.
and I always struggle with that, with looking at myself in the mirror, and that was a huge problem for me. So I became obsessed with the gym. I just loved going to the gym, but I
Oh,
had
it's
like ups and
addictive.
downs.
I love it.
Yeah, it went through ups and downs, but in the past 3 years, I've been really consistent with it. So I
Mm-hmm.
found this trainer. He's a bodybuilder trainer, and he's from Portugal. So I've been training with him for 3 years now, and I've managed to gain. I lost a lot of weight first, but then I'm gaining some muscle mass now, and it's just really exciting to see your progress over the years. Like, to see how far you can go with your strength and
Mm-hmm.
with your body. So, and that really helps me, man. Like, every day I go to the gym and I go for a 45-minute run, and I found out that this moment, it's my most creative moment of the day.
Yep.
So
Definitely.
I associated that with my creativity now. So I cannot not do that anymore.
Dude,
You know?
this is going to blow your mind. This is insane. So the other day, right? I've not posted it yet. So I interviewed a person whose family background and what he does is prosthetics and making 3D for the
Uh-huh.
future, and his mum is like a master in like neuroscience, so like brain
Ooh.
stuff, etc. And there was this study that that we were talking about. So running literally increases your intelligence. So the more you
Mm-hmm.
run, the better your creativity is. And it's like they were saying like
Mm-hmm.
that's the best thing to do. So if there was one sport to do to get your brain working at its best function is running.
Uh,
And when I heard this, because I run every day, I'm just like you, I love
uh-huh.
sport. So I'm like, hey, I'm just never stopping running again. Just run every
Yeah,
day.
that's the man. And the funny thing is, I hated running so much. Running was one of those things that I looked at people running at
Mm-hmm.
6 a.m. in the morning, and I just wanted to punch them in the face. I'm like, stop doing that. But then with COVID, because in my training, I need to do the weightlifting thing, and then I had
Mm-hmm.
to do like some type of cardio after it. And I was struggling because I always hated cardio. But then with COVID, running was the only option that I had.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I had to do my weight training at home, and then I had to do a type of cardio, and then running was the best option. So I started doing it, and then I'm like, oh, I hate this. I hate this so much. I just wanted to punch myself in the face every day. But when I started to associate that moment with listening to a podcast that I liked, or thinking about things that would be productive for me, it just became a habit, right? So habit building is something that I became really obsessed with in the past years as well. And there's always a few books that I always talk about. There's one called Atomic Habits. This book is like, it's a life-changing book for me, because it's a practical book that just gives you guidelines to change your habits and improve your life in small steps, you know? Yeah, so I started running, and the gym's also a big thing for me now. But also snowboarding was something
right.
that
Didn't
I
expect
got
you to
into.
go down that route.
Man, snowboarding it's so interesting, because in Canada it's a big thing, right? It's hard in other countries, but in Canada, I had friends that used to go snowboarding all the time, and I never thought about it, because I was never really into sports outside the gym. So when I decided to do it, it was really interesting, because it's one of those sports that you suck so much when you start that you just want to keep trying and see how
Just
far
keep
can you
falling
go.
over, get back up.
Man, I fell so much. I remember that my second time, I fell to a point where my knees were like red, bleeding from falling. But then we had this group. I think was the main thing that kept me going was this group that we had, that we would always go snowboarding, and then we would come back and eat ramen afterwards.
Here, you
So I'm
have
like,
the
okay.
best groups. I'll tell you that. You have like the best groups of friends. I'm loving
Yeah,
this. This is great.
but this is like my friends from the industry. They work. I have they work at ILM and Method and other places, and they're also Brazilian, so that makes it easier. I think it's really important to find a gang that you can hang out with. Like I know it's hard for some people, but I think just find people that are interested in the same things. Like just go to I think if you sign up to, I mean, now it's a whole new story, right? But when COVID ends, if you find like sports that happen in your city, like some cities they have dodgeball or volleyball. I think this is a great place for you to meet these people and then create like a group that you can do stuff together. I think this is so good, man. I always hated that idea for the longest time. Like, I'm not gonna do sports with random people.
Yeah.
Fuck that. No, I think it's a great thing just to keep you active and try new things, right?
Yeah, you have to keep on the move, because like we're not designed to be sitting down. I know we do it many hours of the day, and like that's it's funny. When I said that, we both kind of slouched up and went back to our postures, like just out, everyone.
Not me.
It's all about looking after your body, looking after your health. Two important topics that we talked about. But to kind of bring it back to one of the important points that you brought up, so habits. When it comes to habits, was there any particular habit that you struggled fixing? Was there any like main one that was just like, I need to get that fixed?
Well, one thing that James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits is he coined a word called Keystone Habits. There are some habits in our life that if you change these habits, everything else will change with it.
Interesting.
So things like waking up on time, or going to the gym, eating better, like all these things will make other habits in your life fall together. And so that's what I started to do. I know that I tried to find habits in my life that I was struggling with. I think the most important habit that, because it's not just about good habits, right? It's about breaking bad habits as well. So habits that were really bad for me were like social media. That's one thing that was really draining my attention and my energy, not only physically but also mentally. I was using Instagram so much that I would just I would wake up, I would grab my phone, and I think a lot of people relate to that. We just wake up, first thing we do is take out our phone. One thing I created a routine for me was I would wake up and I would not pick up my phone first thing I would do, I would put my phone on the other side of the room. I still have my alarm, so I have to turn that off. But other than that, I would not look at my phone for an hour. So the first hour of my day, I would do other things. I would read a book or write something or do something, but I would not look at my social media because I found out that I was getting triggered a lot by so I would see someone doing something cool and artwork, and even though I love that person and I love that person's work, I would get jealous right away. I was like, not jealous of the person, but like of the fact that I'm not producing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over time that just becomes so draining for us as artists because we keep comparing ourselves, and Instagram is just making it worse, right?
Yeah.
So limiting my social media time, and I had moments, especially in New Zealand, I took a break completely from social media. I left. I deleted all my social media for a few months. Nobody noticed, but when I came back, that was the thing. Like when I came back, nothing changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you start doing that, you're gonna notice that people won't miss you. You can still do your things. I mean, in our case, we create content,
Yep.
but we don't have to be active. We can produce our content and still interact with content that we like. Like I try to do that a lot. I like your posts on LinkedIn all the time that I see them, but I limited my time to like half an hour every day on Instagram. I take a look. I like a few of my friends' works, and then I leave. I delete the app from my phone every single time.
Yep.
So if I want to access it, I have to download the fucking app and then
Dude, and
then
I agree.
right. It's been so good, man. Like being social media free. It's been, and there's a few resources you can use. For example, on Facebook, I only use it on my browser
Mm-hmm.
on Chrome. And if I log into my Facebook now, I don't see the feed. There's a
Ooh,
feed
nice.
blocker. It's called Feed News. What's it called? It's called, just search for Feed Eradicator for YouTube, for Facebook. So you can see your screen, you can see groups, you can click them, you can see all the stuff, but you don't see the news feed anymore.
That is life changing. Oh
That
my
also
lord, I've never heard of this. Thanks for sharing this.
there's also one for LinkedIn that I just recently installed. It's called LinkedIn News Feed. Yeah, LinkedIn Feed Blocker.
Okay.
Same thing. So you enter on LinkedIn, you only see messages and notifications, but you cannot see the feed anymore. It's just blocked. So that's good because again, it just forces you. If you really want to see something in your feed, you have to go around this thing. So
Yeah.
you just create some friction between you and the kind of content that will drain your energy and your attention. Right?
Definitely. Oh, here. This is going amazing. I'm loving this. So there. This is what I did. I love this. This is all different stories. This is great. So because of when there was a time right that my sleep schedule was completely off. So I have one of those beds that goes all the way to the ground. So basically, the only way for you to actually get your hand underneath it is by lifting up the entire bed. So
Oh my God.
in order for me to wake up every morning, what did I do? I threw my phone underneath the bed just so I could actually get out of my bed, because then that means I'm gonna have to be awake. So I had to lift my bed every morning to fix my schedule. It was that bad. Like I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
I would just be like underneath, reaching with my hand. I can't get it. Turn off alarm. Turn off the alarm.
But could you hear the alarm?
Yeah,
Since it was underneath?
yeah, it was the worst. Here, my alarm, it drives me mental, and I'm glad it does because it helps me wake up. It's the worst noise ever, but that was literally what I would do. I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I like to talk about as well is like there's a lot of people with the self-help nowadays that they say, oh, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. if you want to be productive and all that bullshit. The thing is, I was doing that in New Zealand. I was waking up at 4 a.m. every day, but I didn't become productive because of that. I was waking up 4 a.m. because I found out that to me, it works when I work out in the morning. I cannot work out at night. I can't.
Okay.
So the only way I could schedule my day to have a workout in and to do my stuff before starting work was to wake up that early, right? It doesn't matter if you wake up at 10, 11, 2, as long as you're having enough sleep, as long as you're sleeping 7 to 8 hours. Just find your, how much time you need. As long as you're doing that, that's fine. Like, don't fall into that trap of thinking that if you wake up early, you're going to be more productive and more successful. That's the biggest bullshit ever, right? As I think the most important thing is for you to find out what works for you, and just feel like when you're more productive and when you're not, right?
Yeah, because sleeping, I wonder how long this has been around. I've got a feeling it's in every industry that there's always this kind of, yeah, I outworked mentality, because I used to have it. I used to think that having no sleep made me feel like I was a beast. Like, I just suddenly had this ego about me. I was like, yeah, I'm sleeping 4 hours. Woo! Life's going to make me famous or something. And it just made me more depressed. It made me more angry, and the quality of my work at the day wasn't the quality that it should be at because of that lack of sleep. And there's a lot of topics that you can really learn from. And like, if you're struggling with your sleep pattern, the best advice, and I said this in one of the previous episodes, because this is the thing that's always worked for me. A lot of people try to change their daily routines overnight. It doesn't happen like that. It takes time.
No.
So when I was going to the gym, I know you said, for example, running, you did not enjoy running. So this is what I say. You can disagree with me, whatever you feels the best choice for you. But when I was explaining to people how to get better at getting into good habits for fitness, what I would do them is go to the gym or do running once a month. If you can do it once a month, you do it for the next 2 months. You just do it once a month. That's nothing. That's literally nothing. And then the next sets of 3 months, you then do it twice. And you just slowly build it up. Because a lot of people expect, with the world of social media, they're trying to get things so easily these days, or they think things are going to happen overnight. One of the biggest problems being advertising in the world, they'll have all these crazy ads of, oh, if you sign up to my thing, you'll lose 30 pounds in a week. It's just fake advertising. It's not true. Maybe there is certain ways, but that would be extreme if you could do that. But when it comes to trying to change your habits, the best thing I would say is be patient. Like, give it time, and don't try to change it overnight. Like, people always say, oh, I'll just do an all-nighter and that'll change my whole routine. But I don't know. I don't believe in that. I think you should do it the healthy, natural way, because then you'll actually learn from it rather than just relying on this one thing and expecting it to work.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing I would say differently would be, there's one thing that James Clear talks in his book is to build like habits, good habits. One strategy you can use is the 2-minute rule. Is so just instead of trying to do like 7 days a week, right? Like of like 2 hours, a 2-hour session at the gym, try to do like, let's use running as an example. Instead of like going for a half an hour run, just go for like out for 2 minutes. Just do like a 2-minute run, and after the 2 minutes are done, you have to go back. Do that for a week. Like every day, go out, do like put out your clothes, go out for a run, do 2 minutes, and then come back home. After a week, you're gonna get so pissed that you're only doing 2 minutes. But at the time, you just developing a consistent habit, right? That you're just like gonna try and keep pushing. That's what I did. I just started with like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then without realizing, I wanted to do 40. So now I don't even think about it anymore. I went today. I woke up,
great,
had my coffee, and then just went for the run and the gym. One of those things you just become you're doing mindlessly.
It just becomes a habit, like a good habit. It becomes a good habit. So thanks for sharing that. By the way, I just want to say, are you still good for time? Like I could talk to you for like another hour at least, if you're okay with that.
No, it's okay. Dude, no, it's all good.
Thank you so much. This is great.
We talk a lot.
Oh, this is awesome, because you'd be a great podcaster, dude. You'd be a great podcaster. I could listen to you.
I'm actually thinking about. I have one idea that I have, but we can talk about enough later. But
that's okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool.
Awesome. Right, we've talked about mental health. We've talked about fitness. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about texture art. Right.
Damn it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, nail it.
Right. So today I kind of want to throw a variety of different questions from a wide range of angles from senior perspective, mid and junior, etc., just to get a bit of a broad range of questions answered. But to anyone who's tuning in, what is the main thing or the main differences between these roles? I know it's a bit of a big one to start off with, but if you had to break them down, so a junior, a mid, and a senior, what are the main differences?
Well, this is a really hard question because it's honestly, even for us that are already working, it's really hard for you to separate what what the levels are. Even for me, like to call myself a senior artist today, I always felt weird calling myself a senior texture artist.
Okay.
Like some people, they can call themselves seniors after 2 years. I didn't call myself senior until this year, right? Because I always have this imposter syndrome feeling that I don't deserve to be a senior. I'm not a senior,
Mm-hmm.
But I think let's start with junior. I think junior is the easiest one to define. It's like, your first year when you start out. That's when you're gonna get most of the tasks that you get are gonna be pretty straightforward. When you start in a company, they're often gonna be very, very nice to you. Like most companies, I would say they're not gonna try and they're not gonna ask you to texture the main creature of the show. If they do that, holy shit. But most tasks, actually, that's the theme of my next week's video.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
going to talk about the main tasks the texture artists do in the industry. But anyway, so the junior artists, they're usually going to get a lot of props, right? We're talking about VFX realistic work here. So we're gonna get a lot of props from the set. So they usually have like small background props that they have on set, and then they show you the prop and say, okay, you just have to texture this, and that's it. There's also a lot of environment work. So you're doing rocks. A lot of people do rocks for a long time. Man, they hate it.
The world of rocks.
But,
I've had so many stories about rocks on this podcast, man. It's crazy.
So many rocks. Yeah, I mean, some people love it. Other people just hate it. And I've done a lot of rocks. But yeah, I've done rocks on The Rock movie. That was cool. So I think the junior artists are going to do a lot of prop work. I think that's why it's so important when you're developing your reel to focus on replicating real objects into CG. We can talk more about this later, but so you're going to do props, environment work, a lot of rocks, a lot of buildings, if they have that.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked on at that time when I started, I worked on Independence Day at a time, and then we had to do a lot of building work that nobody saw. But and a lot of small props here and there. And I guess like that's gonna depend a lot on the size of the company, but you're gonna start becoming a mid as soon as you start having more complicated tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think nobody ever come to you and say you're a mid now.
That's the thing. I've never heard anyone call themselves a mid. Like you just never hear it. It's always junior straight to senior. Always feel like
because it doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you mean.
I mean, people would say, "Oh, I'm a mid." Like that's how I would call myself at Weta. I would say I'm a mid. I wouldn't say I'm a senior. I would say I'm a mid. And I think, I mean, when you get a promotion, usually you get a promotion in some places where they say, "Okay, now you're a senior, so you get a pay raise." That's there you go. Or when I was at Scanline, for example, I got a few pay raises, and then maybe I could be consider myself mid, but
yeah.
I never made that distinction. It's a fine line. It's just such a gray area that I wouldn't worry about that. As long as you're getting pay raises, that's good.
Yeah,
focus on that.
The money, you're happy.
Yeah. So, but mids are usually gonna get the mid type of work. So I was lucky that I would still consider myself a junior, but I still managed to paint. I painted a lot of characters on Justice League at a time. So I painted Flash, I painted Batman, I painted the Parademons, I painted a bunch of the Aquaman soldiers. Mm-hmm. So that's like senior type work. But at that time, my lead at a time, Anna, yeah, she's amazing. She was the person that at that time they didn't want to give me the work because I was junior. I was too junior, but she was sitting right next to me the whole time, and she saw me working on the other stuff because at the time I was working on a lot of props for Power Rangers at the time, and I decided to put a lot of effort into those props, even though they were going to be background assets. I said I'm going to make this the best props ever. I put stickers on, and I mean, I would still finish within the time frame they gave me. I wouldn't
Hmm.
go beyond that, but I did my best to make them look awesome. When she saw that, she's like, "Oh, this guy can do some texture work." So when they asked her to do the work on the digidoubles on Justice League, she passed it to me and she said, "No, I trust this kid. I want him to do it." So if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have the chance to do it.
Hmm.
So I'm extremely thankful that I had that opportunity, that she was kind enough to see that potential in me, right? Because
Yeah.
after I finished my first one, which was Flash, they really liked my work. So they kept giving me Batman and all the other ones. I guess I could consider myself a mid at that time because I was already like a year in the industry, a year and a half.
Yeah.
But that's very, very lucky. You have to be lucky. You have to be, because not a lot of people have this opportunity. They usually get stuck into props for a long time. So the best thing to do at times is just to leave the company and try somewhere else if you can.
Hmm.
Because when you move to a different company, you can renegotiate your pay. And it's always better when you start with some experience, because people, they don't know much about you. Because when you started a company as a junior, everyone would always look at you as a junior, right?
Completely
Even
agree.
though even though you've been there for 20 years, they still, oh, that's, if that they have been there for longer, they're going, oh, that's just Paul, right? uh, I had that feeling for a bit, but I always had a great time. Like I loved my experiences at Scanline and Method, and
you
yeah.
you said something there which it's super. It's great to hear that you had this. So you had a person who trusted you, and I think this is a vital thing in every lead, or at least having seniors in your team who can just show that they trust you quite early on, because that'll give you that confidence. So if you're a senior listening right now, and maybe there's a junior on your team who's a bit shy, and sometimes just giving them a bit of like a wee bit of confidence boost can go such a long way, because you're going to get better result from them, because
Hmm.
her trusting in you really set the bar for you, because you had an opportunity and you knew that if you made the most of this opportunity, it would be a good thing for your career. So obviously you're going to work
Yeah.
harder by her showing the faith in you. And
Yeah.
this is where so I've been talking about this to multiple guests in the last few episodes, because I think it's crucial. Having somebody who's a senior or a lead who actually knows how to make you feel comfortable with yourself is so important. Like, it goes
It
back to
is.
what we were talking about, mental health and stuff. Like you said, a crucial point, which was people were asking you, like, how could you be stressed if you look positive? But you don't know. Like, there's like people, you can never tell what's going on in somebody's head. So if you can be like, you know what, I believe in the work that you're doing, that's going to make everyone in that team so much stronger, because there's confidence, there's energy flowing, and energy is such a big part in any studio, because we're going to be given repetitive tasks all the time, and
Yeah.
sometimes a wee bit of a nudge can really just skyrocket everyone. So that's
Yeah.
another thing that I feel, that if you are a senior right now and you're tuning into this, just give someone a wee bit of a confidence boost every now and then. It can play such a big part.
Yeah, and it means a lot to us when we are students, and that's something that I always try to do. Even though now I have a bit of experience, is just like trying to always have a newbie mindset. Always try to see myself as someone who's always open to learning.
Hmm.
I try to be really careful and mindful to not burn out or feel jaded, because I did meet some people early on that they were very jaded. They didn't want to be in this industry anymore. And what I would say, if you're junior, just try to stay away from these people, because I don't blame them. I know that this industry can be really, really stressful, and if you really don't want to be in this industry anymore, it can be a toll. And some people stay because they have to pay bills, and I don't take that from them. But if you're new, I would say try to search people that are still not there yet,
Mm-hmm.
or they have a more positive outlook into their career, because that's what I did. I tried to be around people that they were, like, for example, this lead. She's not in the industry anymore. She left the industry, but even though she wanted to leave, she was still positive
Mm-hmm.
about things, right? Um, yeah, because that really, yes, and like I said, just if you just help someone who's starting out, man, you're gonna, depending on the person, of course, but that person will be forever grateful,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I helped many students because I was a teacher at Think Tank for a bit, and all these students, they still talk to me and they say, Paul, thank you so much. I have students working at ILM, working in many different studios out
Congratulations.
there, and no, I mean, they're awesome, like, and I'm
Yeah.
always grateful that I was able to help them somehow. And yeah, it's just like something that for you maybe sounds small, like even with us creating content, right? Like, a lot of people ask me, why do you do that? Like, why do you even waste your time creating stuff that not a lot of people even see it? I'm like, dude, like, you don't realize how many people you can be helping. I
Yeah.
came from a very small town in Brazil, and the only reason I learned what I've learned was because someone else out there took their time to create a free tutorial and post it online. So if it wasn't for that guy, I wouldn't be here today. So I I was lucky that I have a family that paid for my education, and a lot of people don't have the same opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So the least I can do, just to sleep well at night, just to to think, okay, I'm doing something to give it back to this community. It's by create something that can help those guys that they don't have anything, right? So, and I've gotten messages from people because of the articles that I wrote on my website saying, like, man, you just changed my life with those words. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was just
It's the
talking about
best.
pizza. I was talking
Yeah.
about pizza and bullshit, and you said that I helped you. So it just takes so little, man. It's just like one step. Just write one word. Answer that email from that kid that sent you that email like 5 years ago that you never got to. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all this. This is such an epic podcast because I've got about so many more topics to talk about. We'll definitely throw in lots of different. This is going to be a long one, so enjoy, folks, because I did not expect it to be going down like this.
Sorry, guys. I talk too much.
No, this is
I always have this
great.
problem, and no, sorry, because I always get into these conversations. I have this problem on the streams that I'm doing as well. I always start talking to people, and then I start getting to these tangents, and I kept going, and I don't answer to the question that you asked.
Tangents are the
So
best, so
sorry,
I appreciate
sorry.
everything you say. I'm just grateful that you're letting me have you on the show, man. So thanks for doing this.
No,
So
thank you.
when it comes to the world of texturing, if there was one thing that could really change somebody's textures, if there's one thing to stand out that they could change today, what would you tell them?
Well, stop using presets.
Right?
That's the first step for students. Is don't rely on presets in the beginning. Just rely on understanding what you see. That sounds simple, and everyone says that, but man, I can't even explain how important this is. Like, even with the experience that I have, I constantly find myself thinking that I know things instead of like actually looking at the reference and trying to replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
When you see like a metal, you're doing your metal, and like, okay, I know how a metal looks like, and then you just do it without looking at a reference, and then when you look at a reference, it looks completely off,
Yeah.
right? So just put an effort into actively understanding what you're doing. And another thing that drives me insane is that people that are starting, they focus too much on trying to create cool characters, cool ass robots without understanding the basics first. Before making a robot, you have to learn how to make, I don't know, like a metal bowl,
Mm-hmm.
or like a gumball machine who has a metal piece. Like, if you cannot replicate that in real life, a real life object into 3D, your cool ass robot was not going to look as cool because you do not understand how surfaces work, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, no, it's fine. Because
just drives me. Yeah.
here, don't ever be. You don't need to. Sorry, this is like I said. This is awesome content. Everyone's going to appreciate it. So carrying on what you said there, which is super important. This goes back to a big element in your life, which was one of your mentors. So I remember, as I've been following your content, one of the really important things that you were told was, right, you're not making this sci-fi spaceship crazy environment. You're making these 4 assets, and this is going to get you a job. So can you tell us this is a crucial story, and it's game-changing. It kind of ties this all together, what you just taught there about the whole presets and choosing the right asset. Can you tell the story about having your mentor telling you to make these simple assets and making sure that you made them realistic, and the power that this brought to your career making good artwork?
For sure. Yeah, you watched that talk that I did.
I've watched
right?
everything you've done, man. I've watched probably about 30 of your talks, dude.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that was a funny talk, man. Because I said there was a Gnomon in LA, right? And I said shit 3 times.
Yeah, and it's
I was
brilliant.
like,
you said it, and then because of your brain, I do the exact same things. Like, sorry, I said the word, and then you said it again. I was like, oh, there's so many good laughs.
I said shit. I'm sorry for the shit. Oh shit. By the way, can I say shit here? Is it okay
yeah.
to say shit?
Do
Okay.
say whatever you need.
Shit.
Let it out.
Anyway, so Justin Holt, he was my mentor back in school, and he was at the time, and now he's a legend, right? He works at Epic Games now as a texture artist, but he worked in the industry he's been working for a long time. He worked on Rango and a bunch of different other movies, and at school he was seen as the go-to mentor, the guy that everyone that worked with him got a job after school. And the thing is, you could not just ask him to be your mentor. You have to convince him to become your mentor. That's the other thing. And that's what made him so, it was so exciting to work with him, because he was so particular about what he wanted that he would not take any person. He would take someone that was really serious about the work. Before, it's like I said before, like I finished WASP. It was on my first semester of school. I finished WASP, and which was this sci-fi spacecraft based on Ian McQueen's design. So I finished that project, and I was like, okay, from now on, all the work that I'm gonna do is gonna be like this crazy ass scenes, this spacecrafts, and it's gonna be amazing. Everyone's gonna love my reel. I'm gonna be famous on Instagram, and our station wasn't even a thing. Yeah, no, it was just like, that's what I want. So when I finally got to work with Justin, he said, the first thing he said is like, listen, you're not going to do this. And I was like, what? But I want to be cool, man. I want to do something cool. I want to stand out. I want to stand out. I want to be different. Blah, blah, blah. And then he said, listen, you can make a spaceship. You can do whatever you want. That's your life. But that's going to take you a crazy amount of time for you to finish into something. And I mean, you're going to take a long time for you to finish and turn this into something that people are really going to enjoy. And if you spend all this time doing that, you're not going to be learning the basics, like how to make things look real, because you're going to be looking at something that doesn't even exist. So what I want you to do, and I was working with Christian at the time as well, we were both, he asked us to find objects on a thrift store, like used objects that we could use in our demo reels. And the point that he had was, by having the object in hands, we could take photos. First of all, you could take your own reference photos, which is really important, but also you can move it around and see how the light reacts to each surface. So then he convinced me, and then I felt terrible. For the longest time, I was super mad that I couldn't, do my cool ass spacecraft. But he did allow me to do a cassowary, which is like another piece that I finished afterwards. It's a bird.
Your cassowary piece. Oh, we're gonna be talking about birds because we both share the same fear. I hate birds
Oh
too.
yeah,
So
yes,
so when I saw your talk, I was like,
yes.
somebody understands the pain of the pigeon and the
People,
seagulls.
man, it's just people don't understand me because like birds, they're okay.
They're
Let me put them.
terrified.
Let me put.
Oh.
Dude. Like birds.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, think about this. They are the closest thing to a dinosaur we have
Mm-hmm.
to begin with. But the thing that freaks me out about birds that people don't get it is that when you're walking on the street, that bird, he can fly over your face and he can kill you. He can turn you, he can blind you right there.
Yeah.
The thing, I almost got hit by a bus once because of a pack of pigeons. So I was leaving the station,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had my headphones on, and then I saw three pigeons behind me, and then I was
Oh
like,
boy.
okay. I was looking at them, I was like tracking them, and they they have that pose that have like that,
Yeah, chest out,
that
the little shuffle.
chest out, that dude pose, and then they were coming towards me, and then I was looking at them. I didn't see that I was crossing the street, and then the bus came, man, and he stopped, like
Oh
this
boy.
close to me. So yeah, so they almost killed me. See, birds, man. Sorry,
Dude.
I just went on
No,
a bird
we need to talk
tangent.
about this because
This is serious. This is a serious
this is
topic.
a serious topic. This is the most important topic of today. We're talking about
Yeah,
pigeons and stuff.
be, car-
Like
be careful with birds.
I've never had the chance to share this with anyone, so I appreciate
Thank
you
you, man.
sharing this.
Thanks for sharing.
This is an important
let's
announcement in today's podcast.
let's do like a birds anonymous thing, like where we we gather everyone's afraid of birds in one place.
We must
Yeah,
form
man.
our alliance.
Yeah, just like everyone against birds.
I'm like,
Sorry,
we're going in such tangents. I love it. It's seagulls. Oh gosh, they're the worst.
uh,
Seagulls in Scotland. They're terrifying things. No, but the reason why I kind of stopped you when you were talking about the cassowary, because your cassowary collaboration piece inspired me to make creature work.
oh really?
So I made a cassowary. I'll show you after. It was because of your piece that made me want to make a cassowary, and
That's awesome, man.
it's always nice seeing like all these different stories and hearing. So when you did say that thing at the Noman talk with Mari, was Mari or the Foundry? Well, the same company. They're both the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, he understands. But yeah, to go back to your story before I rudely interrupted. So Justin was teaching all these things, and I'll let you finish the main.
Yeah, the
main part.
cassowary, the cassowary was an important piece on that story because I chose two assets. So I had the camera, the gas mask, and I chose the third one, which was the gas mask. He allowed me to have one organic asset, even though he said do not do organics
Mm-hmm.
because it's way out of your league when you're starting out, and you're just gonna waste a lot of time that you could spend on the other assets. But I wanted to do it anyway, so like, yeah, I'm gonna do it with that voice. So when I started, I decided to start with the cassowary because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the hardest one, so let me do it. And my friend Christian, he started doing his other piece, which was a nail gun, a realistic nail gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was, we had 4 months to finish all of our assets. In a month and a half, I noticed that Christian finished his nail gun and he was starting his second asset, which was a violin. And I wasn't even halfway through my cassowary. I was struggling already with the look. It wasn't looking good. I was like, oh, this is not going anywhere. And then more months kept passing. So 3 months in, no, 2.5 months in, I was still stuck with the cassowary. And I was getting frustrated. I wasn't getting anywhere. I was not learning anymore. I was just so frustrated. And it was only 2 months in. And Christian was finishing his second asset. And then the rookies competition was coming in. At the time, it was called the CG Student Awards. And Justin said, this is an opportunity for you to put your work out there. So you need to finish something by then. And it was like a month and a half in. So I only had a month and a half to finish the cassowary. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to finish this.
Yeah.
So I decided to, man, it was such a sad moment, but I had to put it away for a bit. Mm-hmm. So I put the cassowary aside and I decided to start one of the other assets that I had modeled already. So I was, okay, I'm going to finish this gas mask. So within a month, by learning from our sessions with Justin and looking at what Christian have done, I finished the gas mask within a month or so. And within a month, I already had like a really good piece to show in my demo reel, and I could put that on the student awards. And I finished that within a month, put on the rookies, and I started my second piece, which was the camera. But before I even started my second asset, one of my teachers saw the gas mask, and he was working at Scanline, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to show this to my lead." And he said, "Oh, we got an interview for you at Scanline." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
That's so
And
awesome.
Christian got an interview there as well. So we both got interviewed. And Scanline never had hired juniors, was not hiring juniors at that time. This was like a completely new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because I had to finish mainly for the rookies, but then I end up getting the job opportunity because I had something finished and something done,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I got the position. I went for the interview, got the position, and I still had to wait a month to get my visa sorted.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that month to finish my second asset, which is my camera, my Canon Zoom camera. I don't like that project that much, but I finished something else to have on my reel because I was like, okay, if because the job at Scanline was only for 3 months, right? So I'm like, okay, after 3 months, I'm out. So I'm gonna have to be prepared for that. And the cast story I was only gonna finish after 8 months when Alwyn from the rookies he contacted me and he's like, oh, I want to do I want to promote you on the magazine on a 3D World magazine. Do you have that Cassowary piece finished? So I had to finish that in like 2 weeks,
Oh
just
gosh.
just for him.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I was already in the industry for 8 months, right? So I had all the knowledge that I gathered
Mm-hmm.
in all those months. So it was much quicker for me. And I also my first idea was to make like a full Cassowary and with animation and stuff. And then in the end, I only had like one still image with no turntable, just one side. So I'm like, you know what? I just want to have this still image, call it done, and that's it. So the thing is, by having small assets, small props, but done well, like aiming for photorealism was way more successful than if I had to try something very complicated. Because like I saw, in 2 months, I was in school to begin with, right? I was working 14, 16-hour days with a lot of people around me giving me feedback. With all that, I still felt pressured. I felt terrible. And I know that everyone is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with my experience, it was a good call to put it aside for a bit and focus on something that it was smaller that I could finish in time.
Completely agree. Thanks once again for sharing it. It's such an important story because it really ties into the reason why I do the podcast in the first place. And at the end of the day, no matter what, yes, we love our passions, we love certain things that we love to do, but what's the most important thing? Getting a job. It's always about getting a job. No matter what, you've got to get a job. It's all about, it goes back to the main point. What did we say right at the start? What was Paul talking about? He was talking about his family. He was talking about people who were saying you could not make this as a career. So if you want to make this as a career, make it easier for yourself, reduce the amount of work and focus on the quality. And you've done a few things that I've never had the chance to talk about on the podcast, or I've never really dived into, which I also think is really smart. So you do a lot of collaboration projects. And this is something I feel is not brought enough in education. I don't think, I'm always fair on both sides. I always respect, because I have a lot of great teachers like yourself, and my education, I was really fortunate. However, I feel that in order to really guarantee students getting jobs, they need to do really more collaboration just to save time. So you're a texture artist. Yes, learning the modeling, UVs are so important. Never, if you're a texture artist and you're not focusing on UVs, trust me, please do. You don't want to make anyone a bottleneck. There's nothing worse than having bad UVs. It's the worst feeling of all time. But really try and think smart as well. Like, you don't have to make everything. When Paul was making his cassowary, he got his friend to make the character, did the sculpting, etc. Same for the Leviathan project.
Leviathan, yeah.
So when you were making that, it was the same thing. And then it allows you just to focus on the thing that you need to do and get you the job. And I think
And
these things need to be taught as a like I want to see more group projects, but most importantly, like smaller projects in education. Because when I was this goes back to your main point that you said. So I was the culprit. So I was the person making this big project. Yes, it helped me get the job, but because of it being so big, I struggled with speed when I first got into the industry because I was so slow. It took me 6 to 7 months to make this train project. And then I've made two main kind of thrones. Like I love ornate and furniture. I'm a big fan of that. But I forgot, I forgot the basics. I forgot fundamentals.
Yeah.
I forgot how to make, I don't know, a videotape, like to make it really good. Like, yes, I can make it now, but if I knew that early on and just stuck with what's going to guarantee the job, it's so much easier.
And that happens a lot, man. I mean, like I said, I was teaching a think tank, and I would see that it was so interesting to see that happening with other people, and I would just wait. I would sit down with them. I was a mentor for some. I was a global mentor, so I would go around all the students and ask them what were their projects, how can I could help them with textures. So I would, in the beginning, I would always listen to their ideas, and I would just sit there looking at them. I would wait. And then I would say 85% of them had like a crazy idea. One time this guy was saying like he wants to do this girl crying, and then you would zoom in into her teardrop, and then you would see like a whole world inside. And this would be like a minute and a half of animations and stuff. So I looked at him and I was like, okay. So I was just trying to I just started asking questions. I'm like, okay, so how are you going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I'm like, oh, sure. And just kept asking. And some people they did have a plan, and a lot of these people I said, just go for it, but be mindful. That's the thing. I think if you have experience, man, because I've seen people as well doing the opposite. People that they went for the crazy route, and there's a guy from Think Tank. He's amazing. His name is Javier. You've probably seen his work. He's done this Beast, and it's like one of the best student projects I ever seen in my life. By far. I think everyone have seen that. He put like a year worth of work into that piece, but it turned out to be insane. And now he worked at ILM. He has like amazing, he worked at Jurassic World and all that. But he was a guy that had an incredible background in art. He went to fine art, and his work, I mean, you could see that translated into his work. So I think one thing that we should all do is like be honest with ourselves and understand our limitations, right? I was really inspired by him. That's why I wanted to do something as impressive. I was like, okay, I want to do a piece that is as good as his, and I want to stand out as he did. But I don't have the time because, like I said, I didn't have enough resources to stay an extra year at school. So I had to be smart. And the other thing that people don't think about is your life is not over after you finish school. You're going to keep working. I mean, if you want to do personal projects, man, I think that's the best way to grow as an artist. Like, I know it's going to be harder. Like, you're going to have a family and all that. It's going to make it even harder. You can not do it if you want, whatever. But I wanted to keep going. That's why I do collab projects, because it saves us so much time. Like Leviathan, man, it's insane how that was made for my course at Think Tank online. But that project, it just gave me so many opportunities, and nobody ever came to me saying, but that's not your project, you didn't model it. No, because I put David's name everywhere. It's not, I never hide who made it. It's just like, dude, this is like, we did it together. Like, he modeled it and I just brought it to life with my own my vision, with the textures and stuff. So same thing with the Cassowary and with the Logosh project. Nobody will ever say you're limited because you only done that, right? You just got to be honest and say, listen, this is what I do. If you can do everything, great. Like, that's great if you can do all these things. But it's okay as well if you want to specialize a bit more, right?
Yeah, it's always about an idea, like you said, like you nailed it there perfectly, and because I wanted you to dive into this into depth, because it's something that a lot of, this is where I start debating, is education needed? Like, I always feel like there's, like, I see all the advantages of university. Like, I loved university, but I also see lots of things that just don't need to be there anymore. Like the main thing about university, why we go there, is the experience of being around people, and like you said at the start, having people going through the same like struggles and positives as yourself, and like that's super important. But like I'm really intrigued, or I can't wait to see what's going to happen with education in the next few years. I know the biggest downfall of education, though, and I've been talking to lots of lecturers about this, just so I can share the truth, is the fact that education can never catch up, no matter what. It's just the way the system is, unless there's going to be a massive force of change to make it happen. Take COVID, for example. It took COVID to change the industry to work remotely. Like everyone for years would say, not possible, not possible. And it takes 5 years for the system of education to be updated. So every 5 years they're falling behind. So it's always hard. So I feel the struggle of education, and I feel the pain that teachers go through, that they can only do so much. But to make your job easier and to make your money, to save you more money, think simple and take it from there. So that's a really big point to take away from today's podcast. So, dude, I could have you on for multiple podcasts. I'm going to have you on again in the future. So I'm going to move. I'm going to jump one entire section because I've got another 20 questions that I was thinking of asking you. But I was like, no, this has been great. But I was like, do I want to wait, sacrifice 3 hours of this guy's time? I'm not sure. So let's have a look at the next parts of the questions, and we'll take it from there. Okay. So if you guys are new to the series, before that, we got an important thing we need to talk about. So before we get into the fun section, question time, we're going to talk about Paul's content that he's making. So on YouTube, tell us a wee bit about it, man, and where can people find you?
Oh, okay. So like I said, I moved back to Canada in July, and then one thing that I was always passionate about was to create content, right? I have my website going on. I've been writing articles since I started in this industry. So I decided to transfer that into a video format now with YouTube. We put a bit of my filmmaking background and editing into it, and add a bit of humor to it as well. So I started it less than a month ago, and my goal is I've been creating content and videos every week. I'm trying to bring a different approach to education. Like I said, I'm trying to make short videos that talk a bit more than just tutorials. I'm not doing just like screen sharing tutorials. I'm trying to go a bit beyond, and then go outside, looking at textures, trying to understand how they happen in real life. And also, the video last week, I talked about texture libraries, how to start creating yours. This week's video, I talk about creating a meaningful career path, and how even though I had an unrelated background in motion graphics and filmmaking, I could easily transfer those skills into a career in VFX, right?
Yeah.
So that's my goal with this channel, is just create something that is short, but also really informative, and then I hope can help you guys.
So everyone who's tuning in, trust me, you have to go subscribe to him right now. Make the most of it. Learn from this guy, because he makes great content. He's done content for years through his articles, and like he said, he's bringing it to YouTube. So if you guys if you have a passion for texture art, even just if you're a modeler, whatever it is, trying to get better at assets, go check him out. Make the most of his content, and you'll learn a ton, like you have so far with everything he said in today's episode. Now, let's get into question time, the most random section of the podcast, where I bombard our guests with a bunch of random questions. You name it, favorite movies, etc. We'll dive into it. The world of Paul. Right, Paul. So we've got 10 questions of chaos that I ask the guest every single podcast. So, starting off with maybe an easy one. It might be a difficult one as well, though. Favorite action movie and why?
Action movie. I would say The Mummy. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, good choice. Okay, I've heard that one before.
The Mummy? You never heard? What?
No, I
What?
mean, no one said it for
Okay,
this part. Oh, don't make me.
I,
I'm not that guy. Trust me, I love the Mummy.
I'm shocked.
I've
Man.
said that. I've seen it about 1,000 times. Dude, don't care. That's the third time you've tried to do this on the podcast. Come on.
Come on.
Your face, you
But
literally went red almost there. You're like, wait, what? Where?
I mean, I think the Mummy, like one of those like cheesy movies, like the Treasure, what's it called, the National Treasure, like all those
Epic
cheesy
movie.
movies from the 90s are so epic,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love rewatching those movies, on and on. I think, yeah, the Mummy and Jurassic Park, of course, but I think the Mummy just because I didn't talk about it yet.
Dude, no, I did not see that coming. And then you also said National Treasure. That's got to be like my top 50. That's definitely a top 50 movie.
Yeah.
That's high up on my list as well. I love that film.
It's just so funny because a lot of people, they might be expecting me to talk about VFX heavy movies, and I'm just talking about movies that have no VFX whatsoever, or they're really shitty.
Dude, this is the best part of this part of the podcast. You have no idea what to expect. Okay, The Mummy, great star. I'm loving it. Okay, if you could be in any other profession that's not art related, what would you do and why?
I would probably be a writer.
Ooh, right. Okay, interesting. What
Yeah.
made you want to be a writer?
I've been really into reading lately. For the
Mm-hmm.
past year, I've been really diving into reading and storytelling. So I've been always passionate about storytelling, and I think writing is something that I really want to get better at. That's what was my main goal with my articles, were just like trying to create new ways to talk about different subjects. And I think writing is a good way to keep telling stories without necessarily working with CG, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I wasn't expecting that.
No,
One thing that just came out. Yeah.
no, that's awesome because so I'm so nice to have a person who likes reading as well. So have you ever read the Dresden Files?
Is that a novel?
So it's a whole book series. I've only just started them, and I think you might love them. I have no idea, but so it's a main character called Harry Dresden, and he's a wizard, but he's in like the world of crime, and it's based in like Chicago, and the author is Jim Butcher. It's amazing book series. I've literally just started it, so I started the first one probably about a week ago, and
Mm-hmm.
dude, the writing, just the level of writing is epic, and like
That's
the story twist is epic. It's like vampires meets crime and investigation, and like wizards and it's awesome. I highly
awesome.
recommend you to check that out if that's something that you'd be interested in. Because
For sure. Yeah, I'm really into Bernard Cornwell. I don't know if you know him.
What's his
He's
name?
Cornwell. Bernard Cornwell. He wrote the Saxon Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that series on Netflix called The Last Kingdom.
I've not watched it yet, but I'm a massive fan of that kind of Nordic culture.
It's a history fiction series of books. So he uses history of Britain, and then he adds a bit of novelty to it. But he's an amazing writer. His battle scenes are like one of the best ones out there. He's a great writer.
Awesome. I've got something to check out. It's always like, I think reading has been so, I don't know, I feel like it's been undervalued a lot, and like reading to me is game changing, because there's this another amazing book series called Carve the Mark. So she's only written two so far. Her name's Veronica Roth, and she was do you remember the Divergent series by any chance? The
Yes,
movies?
yeah.
So she was the writer for that. But this new book series that she's writing, I think she's writing the third one for the trilogy, and it's based around a girl who can only she can't be touched by anyone, so or everyone will die. She has this power, and she's in this kind of world similar to like the Last Airbender / it's like Last Airbender meets Star Wars. It's such an interesting concept. I could talk about books for days. It's so fun.
I wonder if they make a movie, if they're gonna have that music by MC Hammer in it.
Wait,
Can't
what do you
touch
mean?
this.
Oh,
Can't touch this. Dun, 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 dun,
dude,
dun, dun, dun.
dude, if they play
Can't touch
that,
this.
that would be hilarious. Imagine that. That's an
It'd
intro
be awesome,
piece.
man. I
Here,
would pay for that.
content for days, man. I'm gonna have to get that link off you about the book you just said there. I highly recommend checking out all the books that I recommend. I know I'm biased because I love them, but yeah. So next question before I go on a tangent. Dude, I just realized I didn't get a chance to talk to you about pizza, so I'm gonna have to throw this question at you.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Right, first of all, favorite pizza, and then tell me what it was like. I know I've read it, but just tell me your strong
Pineapple
reasoning
theory.
about eating pineapple and why you don't like it, and why I agree with you, because I don't, I can never eat it. So pineapple pizza,
Okay.
let's hear it.
Are you guys ready for a rant? So when I moved to Canada, I never seen pineapple pizza before in my life. It's called Hawaiian pizza here. And so when I moved here, people started saying, "Oh, Hawaiian pizza," and then they explained me what it was, right? With pineapple in it. And I'm like, "You fucking creep. Why would you do that? Why would you even, sacrifice the cheese that you put into your pizza?" But yeah, so I'm like, I'm not gonna try that because come on. I hate it so much, man, that I dressed up as a Hawaiian pizza for Halloween. I bought a pizza costume, like the printed pizza, and then I put a Hawaiian thing on top of it. But I forgot that I'm in Canada and people love it. So I went outside, and instead of people being scared of me, they start hugging me. Anyway, but yeah, I hate Hawaiian pizza because it's just wrong. And my favorite pizza is, okay, I'm sorry, Italians. I'm sorry, all the listeners.
Here we
But
go. What's it gonna be?
there's a very specific, like Brazilians, man. We love pizza with a lot of shit in it, like with a lot of stuff. So there's this pizza here. It's a Domino's pizza. I know. Okay, judge me. But there's one that doesn't have the tomato sauce. It has Alfredo. It's an Alfredo chicken bacon pizza.
Alfredo chicken bacon pizza.
So
Okay.
instead of putting the tomato sauce, they put a white sauce, made an Alfredo sauce on top, and then they put chicken, bacon, mushrooms, tomatoes,
Mushrooms,
onions.
nice.
Oh my god, I'm already hungry. But again, I'm not very purist with pizza. Like Italians, they only have they like their Napolitanas and all that. But yeah, I just like dirty pizza, like they're very heavy and
Has bits of
it's so
everything.
good.
Happy days.
Yeah, Brazilian pizza, man. We put eggs in pizza. We put a lot of stuff
throw
in
all
it.
in there. Well, that's
We don't have limits. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like with me, it's always I've always been like a spicy person fan. Like I'm a big fan of spices. Anything that's chilies and peppers like crazy, or good sauces. Oh, love it. So great answer. Because I had a whole section just to talk about the whole pizza thing, but we'll do that in a future podcast. We'll have to get you back on the show, and we'll dive into the world of the crazy pizza life. Okay, would you rather go shark cage diving or bungee jumping?
So I almost went bungee jumping. That was close. In New Zealand, because they have like bungee jumping is a big thing in New Zealand. I didn't know that, but apparently like the best bungee jumpies are in the South Island there.
Okay,
But because of COVID, that didn't happen. So I think I would go bungee jumping.
go bungee jumping.
But I wouldn't mind the cage thing, but I would just be bored. I think I was like, come on, just there's a shark there.
Yeah, you can't really do much.
I mean, if it was a pigeon instead of a of a shark, then I would that would be scary. But a shark, it's okay.
That'll be the torture chambers. Like you, instead of going against, I don't know, like the basilisk or King Kong, you just got the ultimate pigeon.
Maybe they have a cassowary, man, because cassowaries are fucking scary.
Yeah,
Those things, they can kill you with their claws. So yeah, let's do cassowary cage diving. I don't know,
dude. Oh, that'll be meant. I would definitely be avoiding like that, like the plague. I would not be going near that at all. So we've got 5 more questions, and we'll take it from there. So if you were to go pro at a video game, what would you choose?
If you got a what? Sorry.
If you were to go pro, so professional at a video game, what career would you go?
You mean like working in a video game company, or
Oh wait,
working?
well, let me rephrase that. If you were to be a professional gamer Like a video
Oh,
game, like professional Call of Duty player, professional League player. What game would you go?
I would say, man, I was big into Battlefield.
Hmm.
Battlefield
I've not played that in
1.
years. Okay.
So I started with Battlefield 3, and then I played 4, 1, and I haven't played a new one, but I would say Battlefield 3. I played that for yeah, for way too many hours, I would say.
Oh,
And I
good
got pretty
choice.
good at it. I was good at it, and then now I suck.
Here, there's so many games. Like this is the common trend for us, for artists, I guess. Though, or maybe it's just me, but I've got so much catching up to do. There's so many games I need to play. I normally, so I buy one game every year, and that's Call of Duty. So I make sure to
Uh-huh.
play COD. So the new games came out, so I can't wait to actually give it a go. Well, it's just the beta, but it's
Uh-huh.
you can't beat first person shooters. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I love them as well. Yeah.
Right, so we've got a few more to go. This one's hilarious. I have no idea. This is gonna be the best question all day. What song do you sing the most? Is there a song that you sing in the shower that's their go-to
Ooh,
song?
okay.
What's
So
the
my favorite song of all time is a song called "Your Love"
hmm
by The Outfield. It's a song from the '80s, of course. As you guys can see, I'm stuck in the '80s. Even though I wasn't born in the '80s, I was born in '91. This song is just, it's been, my whole life I've been in love with this song, and it's just so cheesy. And yeah, Your Love.
perfect? We had it there, folks. We'll play it at the end for you as well. We'll throw it in.
Just on a vacation. Sorry.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Right. Okay. So we got a few more. Okay. Most underrated TV show.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. There's a show that I loved growing up. It's called The Lost World.
The Lost
The,
World.
it was an Australian show,
Mm-hmm.
and they played a lot in Brazil. It was similar to Hercules and Xena. Remember that from the
Yeah,
90s?
they were. I love them. Please say you like them.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy them?
Of course, come on, man.
Yeah. Right.
Come
Okay. Phew. Okay. I'll have it. They were childhood classics. So many people like
They're
said, "Oh,
so good.
so good." Couldn't
So,
forget this.
imagine, so they were very like that. They were similar. It was similar. It was very episodic. So every episode. So the main idea is based on Arthur Conan Doyle book, the guy
Mhm.
who wrote Sherlock Holmes. He also wrote this book that is not as well known. It's called The Lost World. I think people get mixed up with Jurassic Park. But the main idea is that these people, they go to the Amazon, Brazil, yeah. So they go to the
Birds.
Amazon, and they get trapped into a plateau, which is like a world above the Amazon, which a lot of crazy shit happens. So they have dinosaurs, they have a bunch of different things that happen. So this show came out in 1999, and it was only on for 3 seasons. But I just love how cheesy it is. It's on Prime Video right now. So if you want to watch it, it's on Prime TV, Amazon Prime. It's just so bad, but so good. I love
Dude,
it.
there's so many TV shows that because I'm the same as you because all I know this is a bold statement for me to say because obviously we both love visual effects and that, but it's my whole favorite films were like the Arnold Schwarzenegger days, the
Oh, yes.
Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone days, the Rambos, the Terminators, the
Uh-huh.
T800s, T1000s, you name it. All those that is the best era of movies for me. Like that's if I could do any podcast, man, I would if I could make a new podcast, that's what I'd be talking about.
Uh-huh.
Literally just
Uh,
movies from that period. Dude, that's a
I,
plan.
I watched a lot of Arnold's movies. I've been trying to watch all of his movies, and recently I watched the first one he made, Hercules. I don't know if you
Mhm.
watched that. I
Oh
think Hercules in New York.
yeah, Hercules in New York, and then that's
It's so bad.
it's so
Dude,
bad, but it's so good.
It's like, hi, I'm Hercules. I
It's not
came
his
from the
voice.
sky.
That's the best part.
It's just so good, man. Oh,
Like,
I love that
the
movie.
bit I love the bit is when he says he joins the Olympic tryouts bit and he's like right the guys don't throw it far enough and he uses it picks up the javelin launches it and then he like does the hammer or the discus etc. The guys are just looking at him at awe just like what on earth is he doing and then Oh, it's funny. Oh, gosh, I've not heard of that movie in years, dude. That's brought back memories.
It's also on Prime, so it's not an ad, but yeah, you guys should check it out. Because
Ar-
Prime, they have so many shitty old movies that people don't watch anymore. I
Mhm.
think it's just a good place to find that stuff.
That's Arnold's greatest performance in history. Go check out, folks.
Yeah,
Hercules. You'll never you'll. I'm not
you
gonna
love
say.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll love it. It's such a good one. Right. If you could meet any celebrity, who would it be?
Clint Eastwood.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Why Clint? Why the
So
main man himself?
Clint. So growing up, I was obsessed with
Hmm.
Western movies. So I
John
watched
Wayne.
not even John Wayne. I watched more of the spaghetti movies.
Hmm.
So there was a bit. I mean, the dirty ones, because the John Wayne era it was a very like it was this clean cowboy thing, and they were very romantic. So I liked more of the Sergio Leone style, which was
Hmm.
like these guys that were very dirty and sweaty. So it was like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Ugly, of course.
Uh, Once Upon a Time in the West. So this kind of movies that they were beautiful cinematically speaking, right? So they had
Hmm.
like amazing long shots. They had the soundtrack was incredible, and I lived in a very hot, warm city. So in my town, it would get up to 40 degrees constantly. That was the
Gosh.
norm.
Yeah.
And so the scenario that we had in our city was quite good to make that kind of movie. So when I started into VFX, I really started watching all of Clint's movies. High Plains Drifter. Uh, there's the bunch of other movies that I watched. So I was always obsessed by his, you know, I don't know, his
The
his way of
westerns.
acting and
Yeah.
and the way he directed. Because he Unforgiven is one of my favorite movies as well, which
Hmm.
is I think it was like the last great western. I think after we had Django, but Unforgiven is like what ended to me the Western era.
Hmm.
Like it was just so beautifully done. But yeah, I think he's a cool guy
Dude.
to
Oh,
meet.
it's no one's no. Why have I never talked about this in the podcast? Like westerns is another one. Because I know you said your John Wayne wasn't necessarily your main thing, but because John Wayne for me was massive. Like I used to watch like the Alamo all the time,
Hmm.
Red Ribbon, uh,
Yeah.
uh, War Wagon, Chisholm, you name it. Like that was
Hmm.
my childhood. I used to always make like Jenga blocks, and then I would have
Uh huh.
my cowboy soldier figures, and I would just go
Uh
to
huh.
war while watching these movies. It was amazing. Best childhood memories. So good. Right, the last question of the podcast. I ask every single guest this: favorite cartoon as a kid.
It could be a movie or
So, was there any like main kind of kid shows that you watched when you were little
oh
that
man,
was like
holy
that
shit,
was the favorite? Was there
that's
a
so hard. I
pinnacle?
mean, in Brazil, what they would do is like they would select a few cartoons
Hmm.
to play in TV. So I think pretty much if if you grew up in Brazil at the same time, you're probably gonna have the same cartoons playing. So I think my favorite was Dragon Ball.
Dragon
It
Ball
was a,
Z.
it's an anime, right? I
Yep.
think it can be considered a cartoon. I don't know,
Hmm.
because I was really into the old ones like Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry. Like I love that
The
stuff as well.
classics.
But Dragon Ball was we used to have lunch after school, and we would always be watching Dragon Ball afterwards. So Dragon Ball Z, which was after Dragon Ball. Yeah, so I was really obsessed with that. We had Senseiya as at the time. It's also an anime. It's probably not as well known
Hmm.
outside Brazil, but it's also a big thing.
Dragon
Oh,
here, dude. Dragon Ball is legend. The amount of people that said Dragon Ball in this question, it's got to be at least a fifth of the audience have said Dragon Ball. So you're on the. I think it's the most favorite one so far on the podcast.
I love Dragon Ball. The funny thing is, Pokemon wasn't a big thing for me because the channel that played Pokemon wasn't available for
Hmm.
my town for some reason. So I never really watched Pokemon that much. That's why I'm not as obsessed as a lot of people in my age.
Yeah, like because I was the same. I was more Yu-Gi-Oh. So Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay, no. Can I change?
Yeah. Okay, you could go
I forgot.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
I forgot. Okay, I'll go Yu-Gi-Oh because I still play. There's a card game that I still play to this day. It's
Hmm.
called Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Chaos.
Hmm.
It's a very old game from the early 2000s, and I love Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh it is.
Yu-Gi-Oh is,
Sorry.
folks. We've heard it. Paul, it has been legendary having you on the show. Thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time. I
man.
really do appreciate you coming on and sharing all your wisdom. And as always, folks, go check out his work, get involved. And if you guys are new to the podcast, as always, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Smash the like button if you enjoyed today's episode. And with that said, folks, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you.
That was insane.